Business Employment Dynamics, Second Quarter 2020. For release 10 a.m. Eastern, Wednesday, January 27, 2021. From March 2020 to June 2020, gross job losses from closing and contracting private sector establishments were 20.4 million, an increase of 12.6 million jobs from the previous quarter, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over this period, gross job gains from opening and expanding private sector establishments were 5.7 million, a decrease of 1.2 million jobs from the previous quarter. The difference between the number of gross job gains and the number of gross job losses yielded a net employment loss of 14.6 million jobs in the private sector during the second quarter of 2020. See Chart 1, and Tables A and 1. Chart 1. Total private sector gross job gains and gross job losses, seasonally adjusted March 2010 to June 2020. Coronavirus COVID-19 effect on second quarter 2020 business employment dynamics. Data collection and processing methods have been impacted because of the COVID-19 pandemic. More detail can be found at www.bls.gov/covid19/effects-of-covid-pandemic-on-business-employment-dynamics.htm. The change in the number of jobs over time is the net result of increases and decreases in employment that occur at all private businesses in the economy. Business Employment Dynamics (BED) statistics track these changes in employment at private sector establishments from the third month of one quarter to the third month of the next. The difference between the number of gross job gains and the number of gross job losses is the net change in employment. See technical note. The BED data series include gross job gains and gross job losses by industry subsector, for the 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, as well as gross job gains and gross job losses at the firm level by employer size class. Gross job gains. In the second quarter of 2020, gross job gains represented 4.8% of private sector employment. Gross job gains are the sum of increases in employment due to expansions at existing establishments and the addition of new jobs at opening establishments. Gross job gains at expanding establishments totaled 4.5 million in the second quarter of 2020, a decrease of 1.2 million jobs compared to the previous quarter. Opening establishments accounted for 1.3 million of the jobs gained in the second quarter of 2020, a decrease of 8,000 jobs from the previous quarter. See Charts 2 and 3, and Tables A, 1, 2, and 3. Gross job losses. In the second quarter of 2020, gross job losses represented 17.0% of private sector employment. Gross job losses are the result of contractions in employment at existing establishments and the loss of jobs at closing establishments. Contracting establishments lost 17.5 million jobs in the second quarter of 2020, an increase of 11.2 million jobs from the prior quarter. In the second quarter of 2020, closing establishments lost 2.9 million jobs, an increase of 1.4 million jobs from the previous quarter. See Charts 2 and 3, and Tables A, 1, 2, and 3. Chart 2. Private sector gross job gains at expanding establishments and gross job losses at contracting establishments, seasonally adjusted, March 2010 to June 2020. Note, shaded area represents NBER-defined recession period. Chart 3. Private sector gross job gains at opening establishments and gross job losses at closing establishments, seasonally adjusted, March 2010 to June 2020. Note, shaded area represents NBER-defined recession period. Establishment births and deaths. In the second quarter of 2020, the number of establishment births, a subset of the openings data, decreased by 55,000, to a total of 225,000 establishments. These new establishments accounted for 659,000 jobs, a decrease of 141,000 jobs from the previous quarter. Data for establishment deaths, a subset of the closings data, are available through the third quarter of 2019, when 769,000 jobs were lost at 233,000 establishments, a decrease of 41,000 jobs from the second quarter of 2019. See technical note in Table 8. Table A 3-month private sector gross job gains and losses, seasonally adjusted. The net employment change is the difference between total gross job gains and total gross job losses. See the technical note for further information. Industries. Gross job losses exceeded gross job gains in all 13 industries in the second quarter of 2020. The service-providing industries experienced a net job decline of 13.1 million in the second quarter of 2020. Within the service-providing industries, the leisure and hospitality sector had the largest over-the-quarter net job decrease, losing 5.6 million jobs. This was the result of 651,000 gross job gains and 6,300,000 gross job losses. The education and health services sector experienced a net employment decrease in the second quarter of 2020, with 1.8 million net jobs lost. The goods-producing industries realized a net job decrease of 1.5 million in the second quarter of 2020. Of the goods-producing industries, the manufacturing sector had a net decrease of 888,000 jobs, the construction sector lost 501,000 jobs, and the natural resources and mining sector showed a net loss of 151,000 jobs. See Table 3. Firm size. In the second quarter of 2020, firms with 1 to 49 employees had a net employment decline of 4.7 million. Firms with 50 to 249 employees had a net employment loss of 2.8 million. Firms with 250 or more employees had a net employment decline of 7.7 million. See Tables 4 and 5. States. Gross job losses exceeded gross job gains in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands in the second quarter of 2020. See Tables 6 and 7. For more information. Additional information on gross job gains and gross job losses is available online at www.bls.gov/bdm. This information includes data on the levels and rates of gross job gains and gross job losses by firm size, not seasonally adjusted data, and other seasonally adjusted time series not presented in this release, charts of gross job gains and gross job losses by industry and firm size, and answers to frequently asked questions. Additional information about the business employment dynamics data can be found in the technical note of this release or can be obtained by emailing bdminfo@bls.gov. The business employment dynamics for third quarter 2020 are scheduled to be released on Wednesday, April 28, 2021 at 10 a.m. Eastern.